Have you ever noticed that many people stay busy, informed, and full of opinions, yet still feel lost? Interestingly, the problem is rarely a lack of knowledge, but a lack of wisdom. The Book of Proverbs reveals something counterintuitive. It is possible to know a lot and still make poor decisions. In this video, you will discover timeless lessons that cross generations and remain extremely relevant, capable of transforming words, character, relationships, and everyday decisions, not superficially, but from the root. If you desire to live with greater clarity, balance, and purpose, this content is for you. Each lesson presented here has the power to align mind, heart, and actions, bringing direction to areas where many feel confused or overwhelmed. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because this video may be the beginning of a deep transformation in how you see life, your choices, and your walk with God.
The first warning from Proverbs appears in Proverbs chapter 9, verse 10, when Solomon declares that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Within the biblical history, this fear is not terror, but reverence, awareness, and respect for the greatness of God. This principle functions as the starting point for anyone who desires to live with discernment. Before any decision is made, the heart is invited to acknowledge that it cannot see everything alone. And Proverbs presents this reverence as an invisible yet indispensable foundation. This same principle appears repeatedly in the Bible as a sign of maturity. Proverbs shows that wisdom is born when a person admits the need for the guidance of God to walk in balance. Solomon explains that those who ignore this principle end up relying only on impulses, opinions, or daily distractions. And when that happens, the risk of falling into impulsive choices multiplies. Thus, the fear of the Lord becomes a kind of inner compass guiding each step. In Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5, another reinforcement of this understanding emerges. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. This passage functions as an extension of the first warning from Proverbs. Solomon explains that relying solely on one's own logic is insufficient. The biblical history shows that wise decisions result from a combination of human discernment and divine direction. And when this combination occurs, choices that were once confusing become clearer. Within this principle, Proverbs reveals that true wisdom is practical. It is not memorized knowledge, but applied knowledge. Solomon writes in the Bible as someone who understands the complexities of human behavior. He shows that those who fear God develop the ability to perceive nuances, intentions, and paths that are not always obvious. This sensitivity helps avoid emotional, spiritual, and even professional losses. And this understanding begins precisely with this reverent fear. The biblical history makes it clear that many stumble not because they lack information, but because they ignore divine counsel. In Proverbs chapter 1, verse 29, it is recorded that some reject wisdom because they reject the fear of the Lord. This warning reinforces the danger of living based only on self-confidence. Solomon demonstrates that neglecting this principle opens doors to disordered decisions, and this type of neglect produces consequences that could have been avoided with humility. This fear also influences the way a person interprets life situations. Proverbs shows that someone who reveres God can see beyond appearances. In Proverbs chapter 2, verse 5, Solomon says that those who seek wisdom understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. This understanding deepens a person's perception of reality. Choices begin to be evaluated not only by their immediate impact, but by their long-term effects. And that brings stability. Another important point is that the fear of the Lord brings protection. In Proverbs chapter 14, verse 27, it is written, "The fear of the Lord is a fountain of life." This phrase indicates that divine reverence is not a burden, but a shield. Solomon teaches that those who honor God develop a sharper sense of risks and influences around them. Thus, impulsive decisions are avoided, and the heart learns to walk with more prudence and less anxiety. Proverbs also highlights that this fear brings direction in confusing environments. In Proverbs chapter 3, verse 6, it says, "Acknowledge him in all your ways, and he will make your paths straight." The biblical history confirms that this divine guidance operates behind the scenes, organizing what the human eye cannot perceive. Solomon explains that when someone submits their path to God, they find safer routes, and life becomes less heavy and easier to understand. Finally, this chapter of Proverbs builds the foundation for the warnings that follow. The fear of the Lord is not merely the beginning, it is the principle that sustains every other teaching. Solomon makes this clear in the Bible by showing that wisdom results from a partnership between human humility and divine guidance. And when this foundation is firm, it becomes natural to move into the next essential theme: the power of what comes out of one's mouth and the weight those words carry. In Proverbs, Solomon presents profound teachings about the power of words, beginning with what is written in Proverbs chapter 18, verse 21. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. The Bible shows that speech is never neutral. It always builds or destroys. That is why biblical history repeatedly emphasizes the importance of speaking with wisdom. Everything a person says leaves marks, and recognizing this impact completely changes the way one communicates. Solomon also emphasizes in Proverbs chapter 13, verse 3 that he who guards his mouth preserves his life. Proverbs makes it clear that verbal self-control is spiritual, emotional, and even social protection. The Bible presents the tongue as a powerful tool, capable of generating conflict or bringing peace. Therefore, guarding one's words is not weakness, but strength. And whoever understands this begins to speak less in order to think more. Another important teaching appears in Proverbs chapter 15, verse 1, where Solomon states that a gentle answer turns away wrath. This verse shows that tone of voice can be more decisive than the content of the speech itself. Proverbs reinforces that calmness disarms tension far more effectively than aggression. Biblical history records many moments where a simple adjustment in someone's response changed entire situations, and such posture reveals maturity. In Proverbs chapter 17, verse 28, we read that even a fool is considered wise when he keeps silent. This principle shows that silence, when used with discernment, becomes a tool of protection. Solomon indicates that knowing when not to speak is just as important as knowing what to say. Proverbios highlights that not every situation deserves an immediate answer, and many times, silence preserves relationships, emotions, and decisions. Proverbs also warns about gossip, as seen in Proverbs chapter 20, verse 19, which says, "A gossip betrays a confidence." Solomon exposes that gossip destroys trust and generates division in environments that could otherwise be healthy. The Bible consistently condemns this behavior because it weakens bonds and creates unsafe atmospheres. Biblical history shows that poorly intentioned words cause deep wounds, and avoiding this habit is a sign of wisdom. In addition, lying is treated firmly in Proverbs. In Proverbs chapter 12, verse 22, it is written, "Lying lips are an abomination to the Lord." Solomon highlights that verbal dishonesty harms not only people, but also one's relationship with God. Biblical history shows that truth is always valued, even when it hurts or demands courage. And this integrity in speech strengthens character and credibility. Wisdom always walks alongside truth. Solomon also highlights the restorative power of words in Proverbs chapter 16, verse 24, where he says, "Pleasant words are like a honeycomb, sweet to the soul and healing to the bones." Proverbs teaches that communication can heal, comfort, and bring relief. The Bible repeatedly shows that wise speech brings healing where invisible wounds exist, and this type of language transforms relationships and environments. Speaking with balance is an act of love. In Proverbs chapter 10, verse 19, we read that, "In the multitude of words, sin is not lacking." This principle reinforces the importance of measuring words before using them. Solomon makes it clear that excessive talk often brings avoidable problems. Biblical history confirms that wisdom is not expressed in quantity, but in precision and purpose. Therefore, Proverbs teaches that speaking little and speaking well brings safety, and this approach avoids unnecessary strain. All these teachings show that Proverbs considers the tongue one of the greatest forces in human life. The way someone speaks reveals character, maturity, and relationship with God. Solomon builds a continuous warning in the Bible. Speaking without thinking brings pain, but speaking with wisdom brings life. And as these teachings about words deepen, another theme begins to emerge: the impact of the companions and friendships that shape the heart. In Proverbs, Solomon warns about the power of the influences that surround us. In Proverbs chapter 13, verse 20, it is written, "He who walks with the wise shall be wise, but the companion of fools shall suffer harm." The Bible reveals that friendships can shape behaviors, decisions, and even destinies. Biblical history confirms that the right people strengthen, while the wrong people mislead. Therefore, choosing who walks alongside you is an act of spiritual wisdom. This principle appears throughout Proverbs. Solomon makes it clear that relationships are never neutral, they always generate impact. In Proverbs chapter 22, verse 24, we find the instruction, "Make no friendship with an angry man." The Bible shows that explosive temperaments influence those around them. Thus, Proverbs encourages examining character before forming deep bonds. And this kind of discernment protects the heart. Proverbs also highlights that friendships can lead toward good paths or dangerous ones. In Proverbs chapter 1, verses 10 through 15, Solomon warns about people who encourage destructive or unjust behaviors. Biblical history records many tragedies rooted in reckless companionships. Therefore, wisdom consists in recognizing when someone is pulling you away from God and keeping distance from such invitations disguised as friendship. Another important point is emotional influence. In Proverbs chapter 12, verse 26, it says, "The righteous is a guide to his neighbor." Here, Solomon reveals that healthy friendships bring balance to the heart. The Bible shows that unjust friendships, on the other hand, create confusion, hurt, and inner turbulence. Proverbs teaches that the righteous illuminate paths, while the unjust distort choices. And this understanding helps build safe relationships. In Proverbs chapter 14, verse 7, we find direct counsel, "Go from the presence of a foolish man." Solomon makes it clear that insisting on harmful relationships drains life and distances a person from wisdom. Biblical history reminds us that foolish individuals generate tension, chaos, and impulsive decisions. That is why Proverbs encourages strategic distancing, and such distance is not rejection, but protection. The Book of Proverbs also highlights the importance of friendships that strengthen character. In Proverbs chapter 27, verse 17, it is written, "Iron sharpens iron, so a man sharpens the countenance of his friend. Solomon teaches that true friendships challenge, guide, and push each other toward growth. The Bible shows that such relationships produce genuine development, and this dynamic reflects God's intention for healthy connections. Another warning from Proverbs appears in Proverbs chapter 16, verse 28. A perverse man sows strife. Solomon indicates that malicious people create division where peace could flourish. Biblical history shows how healthy environments can be destroyed by toxic words and attitudes. Therefore, wisdom lies in identifying divisive behavior and in protecting the heart against such influence. Proverbs also reinforces the value of faithful friendships. In Proverbs chapter 17, verse 17, it says, "A friend loves at all times." Solomon shows that true friendship remains steady in adversity and celebrates in joy. The Bible reveals that such people are gifts from God for strengthening the soul. Biblical history confirms that loyalty is a mark of relationships aligned with divine purpose, and cultivating such friendships is a daily choice. All these teachings from Proverbs show that friendships shape character, decisions, and future. Solomon emphasizes that the right companions draw you closer to God, while the wrong ones distance you from wisdom. The Bible reveals that relationships influence more than we often notice. And as these lessons highlight the weight of human connections, another theme begins to emerge: the contrast between laziness and diligence in the building of a solid life. In Proverbs, Solomon presents a series of warnings about laziness and the value of diligence. In Proverbs chapter 6, verse 6, he declares, "Go to the ant, you sluggard, consider her ways and be wise." The Bible uses the image of the ant as a symbol of initiative, discipline, and foresight. Biblical history confirms that God honors those who act with responsibility, and this principle highlights that wisdom does not coexist with complacency.
Throughout this video, it has become clear that the Book of Proverbs is not only about making wise decisions, but about living a life aligned with God. Each lesson points to a greater principle. Living with wisdom is not merely living better, but living closer to the purpose for which humanity was created. Biblical wisdom begins not with outward choices, but with the heart. Proverbs shows that words, character, relationships, and practical decisions are all connected to the same source. When that source is misaligned, everything around it becomes fragile. But when the heart turns back to God, life begins to find order, direction, and meaning. True wisdom flourishes when God holds the central place. Perhaps as you listen to these lessons, something touched you deeply. A warning, a calling, a sense of restlessness, or even a desire for a new beginning. This is not a coincidence. The Bible teaches that God continues to call people into a life of communion, restoration, and hope, and that invitation leads to a vital decision. Accepting Jesus as Savior is not merely a religious act, but a conscious surrender. It is recognizing that on our own, we are limited, and that we need God's grace to live fully. Jesus is the way that reconciles humanity with God, bringing forgiveness, new life, and a genuine relationship with the Father. When the heart is surrendered to Jesus, wisdom becomes more than a set of principles. It becomes an inner transformation. Life with God does not eliminate challenges, but it completely changes how they are faced. Peace emerges in decision-making, direction in times of doubt, and hope even in difficult seasons. If today you feel this calling, know that God is more interested in your heart than in your perfection. He invites you into communion, growth, and a daily walk of faith. A life guided by God is a life that is grounded, steady, and filled with purpose. Now, I invite you to engage. Which lesson from Proverbs inspired or impressed you the most in this video? Was it about words, character, relationships, or practical decisions? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your reflection may encourage others as well. If this content spoke to you, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you can continue learning and growing through biblical wisdom and practical faith. May this be just the beginning of a deeper journey with God. And remember, true wisdom is not only knowing what is right, but choosing to walk with God every day